Hello and welcome back to my channel. It's Spot Mata here from Traditionally Inspired Meaningful Art, and today we are going to review everything that I made in December and January. So December and January were actually pretty good months for me as far as sewing is concerned. I had a 2-week break from work, but I was stuck into some really big projects and some new endeavors during that time period. Lots of time with the kids and just getting the house in order, lots of things. And January coming back in, I work at a school and things are busy. So I'm really proud of what I was able to accomplish, and I'm so excited to share them with you today. First and foremost, in January, I wanted to revisit B6705. It is a gorgeous sort of empire waist dress, and I remember seeing this over on Whitney's channel from Whit Makes, and then the very next time that the Bodice sale was happening at Joann's, I went ahead and picked up this pattern because I feel like I'm gonna love it. So I had made it already. I made a half and half dress back in my early fall makes video, but I wanted to try it in this like double crepe fabric that I found at G Street Fabrics in their $2.97 section. And here it is. It has this sort of like zebra or wood grain print in it that kind of, if you can just see it in the light. It's a very beautiful fabric. Now, one of the things that I did when making this version of the dress is that I think I might have made a size 10 or 12. I should have made a size 12. I made a size 10, so it's a little bit snug, and I did not grade out as much along the hip as I usually do. So it is like it catches my hips, which I don't like. So I don't even know if I wore this to show you all. I had it on my mannequin, but I am actually thinking about chopping it into 2 pieces and having a top and then doing a nice skirt. So to be determined. It's sort of just been hanging around for now, but I do think I want to revisit this pattern again. I really do think it's going to be a tried and true. I just have to do it a couple more times. But I was happy that I gave it a go. The fabric has like just a little bit of give and stretch to it, which makes it kind of hug you really nicely. But I probably should have gone up a size or opted to go ahead and flare it out a little bit more at the hip so it wasn't as snug. But that is make number 1. Second on my list, I made a set. And I call it a set because I made 2 items. I made this bias cut skirt. I was inspired by an Anthropologie dress that I saw. It's this like gorgeous sage green dress with this really high split, and I wasn't gonna wear it, but I needed to make it and someone needed to wear it. So I called my best friend, and I had seen this like sateen fabric at G Street, again, in their $2.97 section. I bought 2 yards of it, and I was like, you know who looks gorgeous in eggplant? My best friend. So I was like, do you want something to wear? And I wanted to make her a cute outfit for the holidays, but it didn't fit. So I didn't do my measurements absolutely right, but the actual making process of the skirt was fantastic. I ended up going with a vintage pattern that I had thrifted some time ago, and that is Bodice 5235. So I ended up going with the skirt view there, and it is a bias cut skirt, so that's why I wanted to use it. And I mean, I didn't make that skirt, I just used the pattern and kind of hacked it. So it has this split right here down the side, and then the overlap layer at the bottom that connects to the other side. It has an invisible zipper. So I have worn it just so you guys can see what it looks like, but to be honest, I don't think it's something that I would wear with the split where it is. And I think to have gotten something closer to the inspiration photo, the split should have been a bit deeper. All the things. I'm really happy that I gave it a go and tried it out though, because I did then get to experience Bodice. But I will say that sateen fabric is so thick and rigid that it wasn't actually like working with, let's say, a charmeuse or like a satin, right? Like a silk satin. So it did not give and drape the way that I think a bias cut garment is supposed to or is intended to. So I have way more to learn with bias cut garments, but it was a fantastic start. And I'm really glad that I went for it and like figured out how to do that overlap and the flip and the flap, and it was fantastic. Now, as I said, it was a set. So what I made for her to go on top is this like V-neck bodysuit. And I made it from Simplicity S8513. And this is view C. So with that crossover. Now let me tell you something about this pattern. I was really excited about it initially when I first bought it. After making this, not as excited anymore. However, I'm not like giving up on it because I think I picked a really tricky view. I don't really care for how they have you finish off the binding. Also, I will say that I am becoming more and more aware that this is probably a lining fabric. Like, I don't think this is intended for just garment wear, like outer wear. Anyway, I don't really care for how the V-neck portion of this is completed, the way that they have you bind it off and attach it. I will say that on a body, I have it on my mannequin to show you guys, but on a body, it does sort of sit in place, but you will end up fiddling with it just to make sure this flap is not flapping open. And then you can kind of see some of the serging. So this could be part my installation of it, or just it's not that great. I had a really hard time with the length of the binding too. Like mine was super long and just like outstretching everything. So in the future, I wouldn't necessarily be trying to make the V-neck version anyways. I really got this pattern for view B and view D. So I'm hoping to give it another try in my size and figure it out. But the actual way that the bodysuit portion kind of cups the bottom, your bottom, I felt like was pretty good, decent amount of coverage. So I'm willing to give it another try. I feel like this would be great as a one-piece swimsuit too. Just hack it. I don't wear a lot of swimsuits, but I would. All right. Then I made what I like to call my little house on the prairie dress. Look at it. I think it's something about having this like ruffled collar detail that I just want to be churning butter. I really do. Like, this is going to be a great dress for me in the summer because it's so light. I contemplated lining the bodice of this a lot of times and then just opted not to do that at all. I think in the summer I'm gonna thank myself for that, just being able to kind of be easy breezy. This is a cotton sort of, it's not a gauze, but do you see that crinkle texture? It was a coastal collection at Joann's, and I picked it up from the clearance like spot section, and I remember just like falling in love with these colors. I love the baby blues, and I love these like orangey colors. Like, look at these flowers. It's just everything that I love about colors, and it's wrapped into this. I had started even in December just trying to start digging into my stash. And when I was trying to figure out how I wanted to finish this neckline, I was like, use some of your ruffle trim. I just made like a pie crust collar using this lace that I had thrifted. I bound the neckline with bias binding, so it does have top stitching on the front, but I just used the same sort of like blue color, and that was fine. It has pockets. And I added those. I made them brown so that they're flesh tone, so that from the front side, since my skin is brown, it wouldn't show like a visible pocket since this fabric is quite light. It's not sheer, but you know, it's light. And I have a nice little zipper in the back. I use the pattern S8599 for the bodice of this. This was in my attempt to try out some bodices that I could see myself using as tried and true patterns for dresses and tops. I don't mind it. I used view A with the higher neckline. So that's just the bodice piece. I tried to use the sleeve. The sleeve on this thing is so tight, or my biceps are huge. I am not that strong. I don't think it's me. So the pattern piece was super tight, and I ended up making like a gusset at the bottom. Like, look, this entire, I don't know if you can see, but right here, I French seamed sort of like a gusset just to give myself more space. And then I lowered the arm side under the arm. So all of that in an effort. And then I was like, well, just go for it. Make it a big old balloon sleeve. You know, I love a balloon sleeve. And then I added my own self-drafted cuff because I'm fancy. And I think I just used the seam where the gusset is to kind of do the little closure. And I added snaps, okay? And here's what I did. I put the snaps in such a way that the top snap is the one that is hollow. And my intention is to go back and sew a button on top of it. So it's like a faux button, but I didn't have to make a buttonhole. And then I just snap it. As you can see, I haven't done it yet, but I think the idea is brilliant and I can't wait to do it. But I love that I still have that really sophisticated like balloon sleeve that ends in a cuff, because I really am finding that I prefer that than just an elasticated sort of, you know, sleeve ending. So I think I'm gonna try and use more of that. I went ahead, in order to use as much of, and all of the fabric really, I added this little bottom ruffle and put that same trim at the bottom. So I'm really happy with this. Like, I've worn it even though it's been super cold, and I just layer stuff under it and I go out. I feel very Little House on the Prairie, but such is life, you know, it's okay. The skirt and all of that also was self-drafted. I just used the bodice from the Simplicity S8599 pattern. Moving on, I think like the most favorite thing that I made in December garment-wise, you know, right? You knew it was coming. Look, this is Simplicity 8. Oh no, it's like, was not that one. I was like, no, it wasn't. It's McCall's M7974. I have to give a huge shout out to Sean from Kittenish Behavior, because legitimately, instructions who? I was like, I'm just gonna follow Sean's instructions, and she goes through this beautiful process of lining the entire bodice. So you do have to cut everything double. So listen, it becomes fabric hungry, but it's worth it. Look at the inside of this. It's gorgeous. It's black linen that I thrifted. I think I had like 5 yards of it. I might have paid $6.99. This is linen. You have to get to your Value Village. You have to get to your thrift stores or wherever, you know, your secondhand places, and hopefully you have some luck, but it's gorgeous. So fully lined on the inside. I slip stitched with needle and thread with my hands this inner bodice. Everything is French seamed on the inside, as it was. Ooh. I also French seamed everything on the inside of the blue dress as well. So I'm very proud of my finishes, guys. As I was making this, I remember watching, is it The Wandering Bobbin? And she made this dress for her Christmas dress, I think, in this gorgeous like red satiny fabric. She was like getting down on herself because the little peak in the center wasn't matching up. And I remember that I had experienced a similar thing, and I was like yelling at the screen, at the YouTube video. I was like, it's not you, it's the pattern, okay? It's not you, because it's not. I was like, her dress came out so beautifully, and I felt so bad that she like thought that it was something that she had done, but the pattern pieces are legitimately the same on the left and the right side. And because they both end in a peak, there's no way that both of them, like, unless you didn't have a button, but because you do have to cross them over at some point, it's going to overlap, you know, so it doesn't meet at a beautiful point. I think if you really want that look, you're probably going to have to use the inner button piece, like midriff panel, and add an extension that's straight across so that it does line up. But otherwise, they just don't meet. So I didn't beat myself up too much about it once I kind of looked, and I was like, everybody's looks like that. I don't know. Using my buttonholer and getting familiar with it, it's very, very bulky at the seam where the midriff and this front panel piece meet. So something to keep in mind. But all in all, I mean, it has pockets, you know, I made view D, but left out the collar. I love this and I can't wait to make more. I like legitimately can't wait to make more. There's so many things that I would make this out of. I've been wearing mine sort of like a pinafore. I don't think I would ever wear it without layering. So for me, it's gorgeous as a layering piece. And when I have fabrics and materials that have tons of color in them or in a really beautiful solid that kind of pairs with things that I can mix and match, I'm really going to use this as a go-to. I'll be making more of this for sure. Next up, a project that I started in December, but I finished in January, is this little number. Did I even start it? I think this might have been all January, actually. I'm not sure. So this is Simplicity 8736. It's a 1940s vintage remake pattern, and it's these lovely blouses, right? Now, I used this really lightweight and beautiful like cotton fabric. It's like a lightweight quilting cotton, I would say. Beautiful olive green with these ditzy white floral print on it. It buttons up in the back. I did put myself in this top for the twirls that you're seeing, but it wasn't hard to do, but I don't see myself doing this when I'm in a pinch, you know? I like that it has these tucks at the bottom. It's beautiful for tucking things in. I know that I have a smaller bust than most, so sometimes like the amount of fullness that was in the top, I probably didn't need, and I don't know how to like remove some of that excess if you bring the darts up a little bit more, or if you, I don't know, like shorten the bodice. I might also need to shorten the bodice, which I'm noticing in a lot of patterns that I'm making. I'm like, huh, maybe you just need shorter bodice across the board on things. For at least these brands, right? Simplicity and McCall's. Anyway, went ahead and used more of my trim. So making this little pie crust collar. I love the sleeves on here. If I were to make this again, or to use the sleeves and borrow them and attach them to other things, I would highly consider extending the sleeve maybe by 1 inch or 1.5 inches, just so it sits very naturally. I feel like it reaches my wrist, but just so, you know, if I move, then it's like, ugh, I don't like that. The buttonholes, again, it was nice to just like be using my buttonholer. I have these awesome buttons that I thrifted. This fabric is also thrifted. So yeah, very, very beautifully made. Did I French seam? No. Okay. I just overlocked everything on the inside, but I did change my serger thread. Like, look at me. I had olive green serger thread. Very proud of this. I don't think I'm going to keep this. I am happy that I finished it and made it, because now I can give it away, but I don't see myself wearing this actually. I think the poofiness at the sleeve cap, wasn't a huge fan of, not in this weight of fabric anyways. So I think part of the qualms that I have with this top are partly due to the fabric choice maybe, but also the design. I think I'm going to be okay putting this pattern back in like my pattern stash that is away and not leaving it out, because I don't see myself reaching for it. Next up, I made another top. Again, I'm on a quest. I want to find a top that I can make over and over again. So I tested out Simplicity 9231. I also made mine out of a navy fabric that I picked up at G Street. I actually used 2 different fabrics. I really love the pin tuck sort of detail at the front. I will be honest with you guys, I was being a little cheeky, okay? And I had a width of fabric that I did not want to waste, and I wanted to use up just that width so I could leave the rest of the fabric. I don't know if that makes sense. So I tried to put the pattern piece, which is really wide, I try to fit both of them on the front, right? So I try to fit the front pattern piece and the 2 back pattern pieces on the length of fabric, like the width of it. So that meant that I had to sort of like squish some things, and what needed to go was the size. Because there's just so much ease in this, I was like, I can cut the smallest size. I'm gonna cut a size 8 because that's what fits on this fabric. Well, while the 8 still would fit me in the bust area, because the finished garment measurements for a size 8 was 40 inches. I think I'm a 34-inch bust. So I knew I would have room. What I didn't consider was the neck. This thing sits up here, and a size 8 was so small that I then had to go in and like, I fiddled with the pleats and the tucks in here so much that I thought I was going to ruin the fabric, because that's how much I unpicked it. I first put in the pleats and it could barely, it was not going to fit. So then I had to make the pleats smaller so that I would have more excess to actually get around my neck. So this isn't the full depth or like width of what the pleat is supposed to be. So it kind of doesn't sit the way I guess it's meant to. But all in all, like, I've worn this shirt. I like that I use the additional fabric here, this sort of like Dobby fabric. It's kind of sheer, but I doubled it, and everything in here is French seamed. Even the little dart at the back, I have an an exposed zipper and a little button that I installed here. I French seamed this inner panel, and then I put bias tape around the zipper. I think that might be why it's wobbly. Maybe it didn't like that, but I think it's such a clean finish on the inside. But yeah, see all of my little tucks there, and they're very, very narrow because there wasn't enough space to go around my neck. So I think I'm figuring that I'm about a size 12 in most simplicity top patterns or bodice patterns. So I think a size 12 is probably what I should have cut just to fit around my neck properly with the type of pleats that the pattern was intending for you to have. But yeah, it just would have been so much more volume, but hey, that's how they want it to be. So I could have graded in, or I don't know, do something else, but what I did was probably not the best. So that I finished up in January as well. And most of January, you all may have seen if you've been here on this channel, I made a lot of bottoms. I made 4 trousers using Mimi G's pattern S9114. I adapted this pattern and just like chopped and screwed it in a bunch of different ways to get like a pattern that I would be really happy with. What really sparked my trouser journey was this fabric right here, which I picked up at Mood Fabrics online. And I had this vision of like the ultimate cool pant, and I now have it. I used a lot of trim in here. I did handmade piping. I used some of my thrifted trim that I got for 99 cents, which I'm so excited about, and put it here under the waistband as well. Added a little bit of elastic to the center back just so I wouldn't have any gaping by my back. I cut up the pattern and sort of pieced them this way so that I would have this stripe going down the side and this awesome floral print in the front. I did a closure with the hook and sort of bar closure, which I really like. And I sewed fly front zippers for the first time, 4 times over. Like, I can't tell you how proud I am of this make and the makes that came before it. So in my journey to get there, I also made this really colorful set. I actually bought both of those fabrics at the same time from Mood Fabrics. And yeah, this color just hadn't really turned out the way that I thought. It was more pastel, so I figured perfect for a toile for some bottoms, because that will be a bit further from my face. But like, how springtime is this, right? Oh, I almost forgot. So the biggest change that I made here is that I also kind of hacked it with a see and sew pattern that I had ages ago that I worked with in 2020 actually. And I ended up doing a flat front using that pattern here. So as you can see, it just has the dart because the pleat was creating too much fullness. The other trousers though that I was toiling previously, I did use the pleats, so you can see the pleats here, but just lots of color. In this one, I pattern matched so much because it is a very distinct pattern, and I thought that was important to do so you can see sort of where these things line up. And I'm just so proud of how it turned out all together. It looks really good on. This blue cotton sateen one is made of fabric that I picked up in the $2.97 section at G Street Fabrics, and I love it. It's just like a classic, really nice straight leg pair of trousers. I absorbed the 2 pleats into one for this pair, and I really like the look of that. I have the hook and bar closure here as well, and kind of just extended this closure so I could get a really neat finish and you wouldn't be able to see my zipper. And the other one that I made is a camel colored wool crepe, which I absolutely love. I don't have it. I think it's actually in my closet. I've worn many of these already to work. That's where I debut all of my things. So it's been really well loved. Now, the vlog that you might have most recently seen is my flamenco skirt. I can't tell you how much joy this brings me till this day. And I mean, I shudder to say that it was simple, but like, kind of simple. The technique of it, it's once you know what you're cutting, actually it's a skirt. No zippers, you know, I put 3 buttons just to have some secure closure and made some ties to go with it. But once you actually cut out the flounce, you're good to go. French seams all the way, inside and out. It's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. It makes such a statement. And I think what saved me here, what really takes the cake, is the fabric choice. This is a glorious mix, and I'm so happy I went with this. Now, in January, another thing that I did was make a couple of things for my little girl. It's been getting really cold here, and I remember when I was getting their like winter wear, I didn't get as many things for my daughter as I did for my son, because I was like, I'm just gonna make her some things. And then I was like, you should make her some things because it's cold. But yeah, so I have this little turtlenecky thing that I made her. And it is a pattern that I thrifted. It's 4924, Simplicity 4924, and I love it. So this is the bottoms and the top are from here, and it's just awesome. It's very easy to make. I adapted it. I just flared it out a little bit and did a high-low effect. And then I added a turtleneck. I just measured her head and made sure that it would go over. This one is quite snug, but I kind of wanted it to do like funnel up her neck and not just gape. So it is quite snug, but like it's okay once it's on her head. It's good. Added a little cuffing here. So I just like used, this is a faux cashmere that I got in the remnant section at Joann's. That's just like so soft, especially on the inside. So I made her a little matching set with the bottoms as well. So these are more fitted, and I have since kind of widened the pant leg a little bit. Well, I narrowed the pant leg. It comes much wider, but I wanted it to fit a little bit more. So now, like whenever I have scrap pieces of fabric or I don't know what to sew, but I want to be sewing, I just like cut out those patterns for her because they're so simple. I just run them through my overlocker, do a couple of stitches on my machine to get the elastic in there. It's kind of amazing, actually. So those are all of my garments. Now, I want to talk a little bit about 3 things that I made that I don't have here to share with you, but I made them in December. I made a quilt for my best friend, for her younger sister, and a baby swaddle for her baby who arrived. Really excited. It was probably the best use of my late December. I was so head over heels for that project. I couldn't think of anything else. It was quilting all day. I listened to quilt podcasts, watched quilting YouTube videos. Like, my algorithm on YouTube was confused. They were like, what? Are you a quilter now? It's like, yes, I am. But I just loved being a novice again. Not that I've learned everything that I need to learn in sewing by any means, but there is a certain level of comfort I have with garment sewing right now. And that was not the case when it came to quilting. Yes, I'm sitting at the same machine. Yes, I'm using straight stitches, which I sometimes use in my garment sewing, but the level of precision, the shapes that you're able to create, how dimensions and all of that work, it was so amazing to really just dive into the world of quilting. I loved every second of it. And if you've never quilted, I highly recommend it. It's a great way to use up scraps, but those heirloom pieces that I made for my best friend and her younger sister mean so much to me, and I know that they mean so much to them. I used shirts, button-up shirts from their dad, who passed away last year, and that was a really, really hard time on the family. And when thinking as the holidays were approaching, what could I give them that can give even just an ounce, a little bit of comfort, something that they could snuggle up in, something that I could use my hands and make. That was the project. It took everything. It took everything. For like 2 weeks, I was like, I'm just piecing together these things, and it was so amazing. It was incredible. And their reactions were fantastic. If you haven't already watched those videos, I will link them below because you must see them. Wait for their reactions at the end. It's awesome. I learned so much. I then ended up making my own quilt pattern for my best friend's quilt. Listen, when I go into something, I want to hack it as soon as I can, right? So it was nice to just be able to customize it and just make something beautiful, useful, and, you know, tangible for them to have and keep forever. So really excited. I'm proud of those. And then the baby swaddle. I mean, I made a baby swaddle with a double zipper so you can access the diaper. And it was made out of one of their dad's sweaters. It just, I was like, you made that? I made that. It was incredible. All right, I'm gonna stop gushing. Really, for me, it was their reactions to the pieces. Like, that takes the cake. That's what made it amazing. Hopefully you've been seeing all the video and the footage and photos of me in them, but I'm really proud of my makes, and a lot of my 2022 goals for my sewing practice, I think I've implemented and had started implementing them in those makes, and that makes me really proud and motivated, and it shows me that I can be thoughtful and considerate in my sewing practice, which I'm really excited to continue doing moving forward. I really wanted to share with you all, though, that next Monday, Valentine's Day, Adele from Sew for Serenity and I will be releasing our collaboration release video. We're making something special for Valentine's Day, and I hope that you're excited about it and will stick around and stay tuned. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing. I'd love to see a thumbs up if you liked this video, and any comments below. Let me know what is your favorite make. All right, you all, I hope that you enjoyed that video. Have a wonderful day wherever you are. Stay creative. Bye-bye.